Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to you if you are a first-time viewer. Today, I wanted to talk to you and continue my series on the Ninth Age Homebrew campaign that I'm playing with my brother and friends. This is something where if you did not watch my first video, Ninth Age Homebrew Campaign Overview, you should go watch that first before you watch this. It gives you a general overview of the whole campaign. I don't want to talk about that again. Um, and I just want to jump right in and talk about what happened on turn one. So, what we've got here, the way that it's situated, is uh, every turn you have random events and turn orders. Now you can see the dates that these happened. I apologize, I didn't start doing YouTube stuff till this year, 2020. So that's why I'm behind. I'm just gonna go through and I'm gonna make a video for each turn, catch you guys up to where we are now. We're actually on turn 8 in the campaign, you can see. So this is the progression we're going. It's working. It's working pretty well for us. So the way it works is you have random events for every single faction within each confederation. There's 5 confederations, and there's 4 factions within each confederation that start on the map. So that means there are 20 different factions, essentially on the board. Each faction then has a random event. So there's 20 different random events happening, and then each faction can issue an order to each banner. Now at the start, we only start with 1 banner, so that's only 20 different orders. Later on, once you start getting certain factions and confederations have multiple banners, then suddenly that multiplies exponentially. So today I'm just going to talk to you about what happened on turn one. We'll go through the random events. We'll go through the turn orders. I'll just read through them, talk about my thoughts, and then I'll show you the map of what everything looked like at the end of turn one. And that'll be it for today. All right, let's jump in. So turn one. So one of the other fluff things that we have to do that I don't think I mentioned actually in the overview video is that you're supposed to name each of your banners with a fun fluff name, and you'll see that once we get to the actual orders that were given. And also, I think you're supposed to name your garrisons. At least I've been naming my garrisons. Just kind of fun. It helps you keep your garrisons separate. You technically could use the same army list for every banner and every garrison, but you're still supposed to name them so that they have a unique identity on the map and in this world that we're creating with each other. So here we go. Random events. It just goes in order. I don't exactly know why this order was picked. It's just that's the order it happens in every time. Every time it happens, every turn. So if you watch my first video, you'll recognize that these factions belong to the Confederation. That's called the Dark Forest of Death. So the Dark Forest of Death is made up of beast herds of Kazrak. No events to report. The beast herds of Jagged Horn. They actually got a great influx of trading of captives boosts this faction. You may add 845 points to your headquarters garrison list. That is a huge amount of points to the headquarters garrison. Now, as I mentioned before, your headquarters garrison list starts with 4,500 points. It's a typical 9th age army list that you'll find. But already on turn one, the Beast Herds got to add 845 points to that specific headquarters. So they're already over 5,300 points in that headquarters. That's going to be really hard for someone to attack and take the headquarters. Dread Elves, Cult of Pleasure, no events to report. Vampire Covenant, Manfred Van Karstein, Portents of El Fortune. All banners have -1 to difficult terrain tests. If no test is needed, the banner is immune to this result. What that means is on the map, if you're trying to cross a stream or river where there's no bridge, you got to take a difficult terrain test. Or if you're trying to move through mountain terrain where you're not playing dwarves or infernal dwarves, you got to take a difficult terrain test. So that's what that means. And that difficult terrain test, I think, is you just got to roll a d6. I think you got to roll like a 4 or higher, or something like that. All right, then we move on to Lord Itzalak's Alliance of Desperation for his confederation. These are his factions. He's got the Knights of Equitaine. On the north map, Fair weather this campaign turn, and your faction takes advantage of this by bolstering its defenses. Add 455 points to your headquarters garrison list. So he also has a larger headquarters list right from the get-go. Kingdom of Equitaine have 5,000 points practically in their headquarters. So that's going to be real hard to take as well. And also, you can see here, uh, fair weather. So what happens is typically um, the random events are supposed to be random, but pretty much someone always rolls a weather. You can't have multiple weather in both north and south, or you can have one weather result in the north and one weather result in the south. And the weather result, wherever it is, usually affects every faction that's in that part of the map. So there's fair weather in the north, which means that basically every faction that has an HQ in the north is going to get some sort of advantage of that. Fair weather usually means you get extra, you can add extra points to your banners or headquarters, depending on whatever role it was. Um, Poor weather will mean other things too, which you'll see on later turns. Alright, Orcs and Goblins, no events to report. Saurian Ancients, spoiled food, one random banner loses 150 points, which may cause it to become illegal. Well, that doesn't happen at the beginning. So, uh, what this means actually is that also random events can be bad things. That's what makes them random. Gives a lot more flavor and fluff and unpredictability to the campaign, which has been good because otherwise there would be certain, you could just use math and figure out what's the objectively best thing to do. I don't like playing that way. A couple of our friends don't like playing that way. It makes it more fun all around and doesn't, that way, even if someone gets a early start or something. Random events could hit him later on that might set him back. So that means that all the banners, if you remember, they start at 3,250. So this means that his first banner is only at 3,100 points. Warriors of the Dark Gods, on the other hand, had rich pillaging. One banner may add 455. So they're already up to about 3,700 points in their first banner. All right, then we go into my confederation, which is called the Sunas Quintumvirate. Dwarven holds. Great influx of trade boosts this faction. You may add 585 points to one banner. So my starting banner started off a lot larger. Empire Sonstal Bumper Harvest. One banner may add 845 points to its list. So my starting banner for Empire actually started at over. It's just turn one, and I already have 4,100 points in its list. Made me very excited. Sylvan Elves Faulty Armor. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Traders have swindled you, and one randomly determined unit with armor must lose it permanently. If the banner list is changed, a unit affected by this cannot be decreased in point cost, but may only have models added. I think when I had this happen, well, I'll tell you what happened. So, on the unit cannot be deleted. So, I have to have that unit in the list for forever, and I have to have faulty armor, which means they lose light armor. One, because wood elves only have light armor if they have armor at all. So, first what we did was we took the units in the list that had light armor. I'm going to pull up what the list is now. It's changed a little bit since this happened because we're on turn 8. This is actually a giant spreadsheet document that we have with all the army lists. You got to put them in and not look at each other's. So, all the lists are hidden from each other, so you don't know what you're attacking until you attack it. The only uh, things I had in here at the beginning, I believe that had light armor, were Forest Rangers, Huntsmen, and probably these Heath Riders. I don't think I had Forest Guard in my list at the beginning. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think they were in there. Maybe they were, but anyway, what happened was those were the units that were randomized, and the ones that lost were the Huntsmen. So the Huntsmen have faulty armor, which means that they went from a 4-up armor save to just having a 5-up armor save, which has hurt me in several battles. I've actually played this army. I've already by turn 8 I've played I think 3 battles, and it's been interesting, and it was devastating in one battle particularly. But I'll tell you about that when we come to it. So let's go back. Then I have Undying Dynasty. Confusing orders, banner one will move to one random map section. So sometimes you don't even get to choose where your banner moves, it just randomly moves. Next, we have the confederation that must not be named. It's got Dwarven Hold, Spoiled Food. One banner loses 170 points. He's got another Dwarven Holds with no events. And then his third Dwarven Holds, Bumper Harvest. You may add 650 points to your headquarters garrison list. Highborn Elves, nothing happened. Alright, and then the last confederation is called the Hungry Dead. It's got 2 Ogre Khans and 2 Undying Dynasties. Ogre Khans, Rich Pillaging. One banner may add 910 points to his list. Wow. I didn't realize that banner started so large, looking back on it. His other Ogre Khans has a random move. So, Undying Dynasties, extra training. You have hired a Swordmaster to train one of your units. Add +1 offense and defense to any core unit in any one banner. So that actually comes up in one of our battles because that's one of the armies I fought against. I believe he put that on this block of skeletons that are in the Barrel Legion. So they have like heavy armor and halberds or something. And then he puts a Pharaoh in there. And they're kind of ridiculous with that +1 offense and defense. Plus with the Pharaoh, they get Undying Will, which gives them additional +2 offense and defense. It's not a fun unit. I usually just try to avoid it in the battle and kill everything else, which worked pretty well in the first battle. But all right, and then Libaris, new weapons. New weapons have been purchased from a trader. You have to choose 2 units. The units chosen may not have models unit added to the unit any longer. The unit does not change in point cost, and then it gives you a list of weapons that you can take, which is really cool because some armies don't have access to all weapons, basically. So you can do stuff like give great weapons to shop Ds. You could give um, lances to chariots because they don't. I don't think default start with chariots. They start with halberds. Just stuff like that. You give throwing weapons to just blocks of skeletons. I mean, this is really unique. I don't even know what this guy did because I haven't fought. I did actually fight this army, and I don't remember what he did it with. But anyway, all right, that's it for the random events. Now we're gonna go on the turn orders. This is where you get to see the fun little fluff names that each person gave to their banners. So, Karger's Rampage of the Beast Herds finds some mountain trails and marches through the mountains to North 122. All right, coming down out of the mountains, out of the mountain headquarters. So I'll show you this on the map so you can see. So Karger's Rampage is up here. So they're coming down out of the mountains. That's going to load. All right. Then we have Beast Herds of Jagged Horn, Varger's Destruction, marches to North 73, stopping just east of the Iron Claw Orc Camp. So that's here. They're marching east. Okay. We've got the Dread Elves. Helmarth's Vanguard marches east to South 42. That's down here. They're marching along the bank of the, well, just outside of the bank of the West Little Grismery. All right. And then his Vampire Covenant. Now, these are the guys that their random event made it so that they had a -1 to dangerous terrain test, which means it's going to make it more difficult for them to move in mountains and take dangerous terrain tests. So von Fobamir marches south into the plains beneath the mountains to South 73. He's way over here in the corner on the edge of the map. So his headquarters is in the mountains. Before he had that random event, I don't know if he wanted to move into the mountains or not, but he didn't. He moved into the plains. So that's one way random events could affect your later decisions. Alright, then we'll move on to Lords Itzilak's Confederation, Knights of Equitaine. Sir Gislane's Expeditionary Force marches southeast into the plains beneath the mountains to North 120. That's way up here in the north. They start in the mountains with their headquarters, and they also are moving out into the plains. Alright, Orcs and Goblins, Kareg's Plunderers, forced marches towards the Little Grismery River, successful to South 64 and South 57. Now, this is one of the unique things about the Orcs and Goblins. We did give specific rules to each faction so that they would play a little differently on the campaign map and not just play differently in battles. we didn't want every banner to feel the same on the campaign map. So, one this big special bonus that orcs and goblins can do is they can make a forced march, which means that one banner from them can make a forced march. So they can move 2 spaces, but they can move the first move and then they have to make a die roll. I think it's a 3 or 4. I think it's probably a 4 plus to make the second move. So he was able to grab some ground extra quickly with this mechanic. He moved into the road and then he was able to take the second road all on turn 1. So his first banner's already way up here. Uh, he was just lucky he was by the road. He's able to take advantage of that. My banners are all, well, we'll get to it. My dwarves are by the road, but anyway. And okay, Starian Ancients, Lord Zuha, and the first spawning marches to the old Silk Road. So that is here. You can see this. He came out and marches to the road. He's trying to grab roads. And Ragora, Ravager of Men, marches north to South 98. Warriors of Dark Gods start it way down here in the corner. They're just marching out into the plains because to move here would require a difficult terrain test, which they might fail. You don't want to fail your difficult terrain test on turn 1 because basically what most of us are doing are trying to march out, secure territory. Because as I said in my campaign overview, for every 3 spaces, you can support a second banner. So right now, most of us are just marching out, trying to grab spaces so that, let's see, so this is turn 1, grab 1 space. Turn 2, we'll grab another space. Then we'll have 3 spaces because you already start with 1 with your headquarters. So that means on start of turn 3, you could already have a second banner, which would then allow you to march out and grab more space. You can see how it can kind of snowball and you can get exponential um, banners if every single one of your banners is grabbing a new space every single turn. Of course, as you're doing that, you're going to run into other people and battles are going to happen and you're not going to be able to grab as much land as maybe you thought. So, then we're going to move on to my faction. Thori Wallbreaker's Regiment of the Hold marches along the mountains to north 133. Up here, moved from my headquarters just along the mountains. Empire Sunstall, Sister Living's Defenders of Twos, marches east to South 81. I just want to do a quick note here about why I named it this. If you heard my overview, I talked about how the way I play Empire Sunstall is, to me, they are a monastic order that worships the deity Suna. And so Sister Livian is an abbess or a nun from the monastery, or the abbey. And Defenders of Twos. Twos is actually an acronym I came up with. It stands for the Order of Suna. So that's what my army is. Once I get it painted, I'm planning on actually bringing this to tournaments as the Defenders of Twos, or at least, I'll name my characters and whatnot. And I'm really excited about this. It's stuff like that that makes this whole game fun for me. Um, is just having fluff like this. If I don't have fluff, I'm not as motivated to collect models and paint the models in the ways that I want to. It becomes more boring. So, and I'll show you on the map. Empire started way down here in this corner. They're just moving here. I can move into woods without penalty. I just wanted to go here and get as close to the road as I could. Alright, and then Luhe's Forest Band, which I showed you the army list for because they're the one who had the faulty armor. They marched northwest to South 84, camping outside of the Grail Chapel. Now, I named it Luhe's Forest Band because the general is actually a Treeman Ancient. I tried to pick a name that sounded kind of elvish, but also kind of older, like old elvish, because that's really what trees are. They're like really old elves. So, uh, their benefit, my Wood Elf benefit, is every time as a Sylvan Elf I fight in a wood space, I get an extra, I believe it's 400, it's either 300 or 400 points that I can add to that battle, just to that battle. It doesn't stay in the banner, they just come as reinforcements because I'm fighting in the woods and I have all these enclaves in woods all over the world, is basically what that represents. Alright, and then I have the Undying Dynasties. Amat Amuna, Cursed Legion, mixes up what it's supposed to do and marches east towards Tor Anrok. I didn't really have a choice. It was a random event caused me to have a confused order. so it just randomly moved. Could have moved to any of these spaces. It moved here, which was fine with me. I think I was going to go there anyway. All right, on to the confederation that must not be named. We've got the Dwarven holds at Carrick Ziflin. They just held and added new recruits. It's actually what this guy did. He had a little bit different strategy. Every single one of his banners just held at the headquarters, because when you hold at your headquarters, you issue a hold, and you're at your headquarters, you get to add 250 points. So he's got larger armies. His big problem is going to be, though, because he didn't march out, he's only going to have one banner. He's going to have one banner that's going to get more powerful every single turn, but he's not going to have multiple banners at this point. So that's his strategy going into it. Every one of us probably had a slightly different strategy in approaching this campaign. I can show you on the map again where he is. So he's got guys there. He's got guys here. He's got guys here, and he's got guys here. All right. Then we've got Ogre Khans. Gozug's Flesh Devours marches along the Blackfire Pass Road. I believe that's up here in the north. They're just marching along this road. Also grabbing a road space. Very clever. Bloody Hand. Darub's Elf Eaters can't read its orders and decides to march towards the nearest source of food, taking some mountain trails. The Elf Eaters are right here because they're near elves, so they're actually moving towards the headquarters. But headquarterless, as you remember, are 4,500 points. He only has 3,250 in this banner. He's not really going to be able to take a headquarters at this point. All right. Then I've got two left. Undying Dynasties, the Gold Dynasty. Pharaoh Tessamen's First Division marches north to South 95. That's down here by my Sylvan Elves. They march north. He did not grab the road. Maybe he should have, but I think he was just trying to grab these plains. And Libaris, which is by my dwarfs, actually. Dejaf's Banner of Jackals and Death marches west to North 99. So here we are. They're not really moving north as they're moving west. Maybe that's what it said. Anyway, so he's moving along here. He also could have grabbed the road. He did not. I think he was just trying to grab up all of this territory. So you can see, if you are in the corners of the maps, it's very easy that you are going to come into conflict. And you're going to have to do a lot more fighting with people when you're in the corners. If you are in the middle of the map, you don't necessarily have to fight. If you just head west or east into the map, you can grab a lot of territory without fighting with anyone. Same thing in the north. Now the north is very mountainous, so people have been coming down out of the mountains, and they've actually, in the turns we're in now, they're starting to fight here, because they don't want to move through mountains and have to take dangerous terrain tests. Treacherous terrain, whatever it's called. Anyway, so that is the end of turn 1. That's all I'm going to talk about in this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Come back to hear my next videos, where I'll be continuing to follow our 9th Age Homebrew campaign. Keep rolling those dice. May the 6s be with you.